Okay, we are moving on to our next scrap journal layout. This journal has a 3x4 mat, but I found this, I think it's from Coastal Shores Variety Mat Pack. It's going to have an extra large notch banner and then a 1.5 inch border at the bottom and a chain embellishment across the top. So let's see how this turns out. I love this bright sunshine. I think it's one Outdoor Adventures maybe. And I'm going to cut it down to the 3.5 inches. It's just, what is it now? It's almost 4 inches right now. And you know what? I'm going to keep it at 4 inches. And it calls for 6.5 inches. And so I'm going to, that's going to make it just, how tall is this? This is a 4x6 variety mat card. So at 6.5 inches, this would be just a little bit taller than this. So here is what I am going to do. I'm not going to cut my banner's height until I'm finished with the rest of the layout. And then I will cut it at whatever height I think I'm going to like for that banner to be. But I do want to touch on how I make a wide banner. This is 4 inches, and I have my punches, but they don't punch a 4-inch wide banner. So there are a lot of techniques for making a banner, including folding it over, which I don't like to do that either. So I'm going to show my method for making a wide notched banner. So we know that our paper, in this case, is 4 inches. So we're going to measure our 4 inches here with our ruler. And we also know that half of 4 is 2. So we know that our center point is 2 inches. That's pretty easy. So from here to here is 3 inches. Okay, so I like that I can see through it well. I can see the point on my paper. I'm going to pick a spot where I want the tip of my notch to be. And it's about right here. So that's giving me maybe 1.5 inches up. If I really wanted to measure precisely, I could bring it over here and bring my ruler up to the 1.5 inch spot right here. So I've placed the corner of my ruler at 1.5 inches here. And now I can measure over 2 inches here. So I know I'm 2 inches by 1.5 inches. And I'm going to put a little dot right there. And we'll just put a little dot right there. Now we're going to want to cut. And I'm going to draw pencil lines because I can. We're going to want to cut right here. And I can erase these pencil lines. But I think when you see the pencil lines, it's really going to show you that this can be super easy. So now I've put pencil lines. You probably call me the pencil lady by now, because I'm always writing on my papers. But with a nice pencil line, and if you see, my blade is just long enough to make this. So I can line up my blade from this tip to that dot. And I'm not worried about my pencil lines. I want to go from that tip to that dot. I hope this is getting on camera. And there we have this. And we've even cut the pencil line away. And once again, from this tip to that dot. And there we have it. Now this time we still have some pencil lines showing. A white eraser is all it takes. And now we have our notched banner. There we go. A nice notched banner. A nice journaling spot. And so the whole process is decide how deep you want the notch in your banner to go and put it halfway over. And you can use something like a zero centering ruler or just pull out the calculator and do the math to find what's halfway across and depending on the width of your paper. And next, let's come up with a 1.5 inch border here and then a chain across the top. Okay, we've chosen this paper, and actually let's use this side. Let's use this side to be our band. So we're going to cut our band at 1 1/2. And of course, 6 3/4. So because of the design of this paper, I think I want to keep more of the darker tone than the lighter tone. Yes. So let's measure our 6 3/4. 6 3/4. 6 3/4 by 1 1/2. I'm going to put a chain across the bottom here, and I'm actually going to put a little embellishment across the top. So this is a scrap of 10-inch by 10-inch paper, and I'm going to first cut with the wispy chain because I'm going to put it across the bottom. So this is one of my favorite Boilermaker cartridges. And you know, I don't need a full 12 inches when you do this. That's going to look beautiful. So I want to make this border. It's a knockout style. And it means that both edges are going to show. So I want to, this edge I can tell is not quite straight. That happens sometimes when you're using a border punch. And so I'm going to just trim this up to give me a nice, totally straight edge. Okay. I will be centering my 10 inches into my tray. I don't want it to be up against the edge. So I'm putting it 1 inch down, and here's the little marks right here for inches. These are labeled. That's 10 inches. This is 11. So I'm going to put my paper at that 11 inches and at the 1 inch down here. So I'm centering. I'm centering this. But I'm still going to punch as if everything was 12 inches. So I'm still going to punch, except I'm only going to punch 3. So this punch has the arrows pointing in this direction. So when I start here, my arrows are pointing towards me. I'm only going to punch 3 times. Then I'm going to flip the paper over and punch 3 more times, but it will make the arrows point towards each other. 1, 2, and 3. Now the tricky part. Now line this up again. And hope that they meet in the middle. If they don't, I'll try something else. And it does work. I like that. But my next challenge is my paper is longer than 10 inches. It would actually be a perfect if it were a vertical layout, but I do want this, it needs to be horizontal. So our next cut is to try to cut this relatively the same. If I line this edge up, it comes over to this edge right here, and this may not be very seen. So I'm going to try to line this up with that edge. And hopefully from here to here is the same as from here to there. Let's see. And if it isn't, this eyeball can't tell the difference. And that's what I want. Okay, the next thing we want is for this piece to be somewhat centered. Don't put that aside yet. Let's pull out our piece that we're using, and we want to kind of center this. Okay, so we now have this at 6 3/4, with this looking pretty centered, fairly centered. Okay, so this is our top piece. This is our bottom piece. This is what we have, and so this is pretty much. So the final piece that we need to cut is our sunshine banner here. We're going to cut it. And so this is called the eyeball measuring. I'm going to cut it right there at that little sun ray. That's where we're going to cut it off. This little sun ray right here using eyeball measurements. So we're going to put our little sun ray on our cutting line. And you know what? Let's see what it turns out to have measured. When we put our little sun ray on that line, we come out with a 7.5 inch. So this comes out at 7.5. You know what? I want it a little smaller, so I'm going to make it 7 1/4. So we're going to cut this at 7 1/4, even though the sketch says 6.5 or 6 1/4. I think it's taller. I want a bigger banner, and it's wider. So my banner's bigger. than the sketch. But like I say, I don't even follow my own sketches. And this looks like the dry fit for our layout. And ooh, I think I like it. And let's get this cut down to 6 3/4 as well. And you know what? I definitely do like this. I'm ready to put it in the journal. We packed up a bunch of items that we'd purchased during the trip and shipped them back home. That was to save on the weight of our luggage. I'm excited to put this into my journal. Notice the one nice thing about these scrap journals is that I do keep them pretty simple because I don't want much lump and bump, so that they will be something to use and to write in. I think this is a tiny bit, so we know what we do when it gets to be a little bit too big. We just snip it on off. There we go. I want to make sure I get a lot of repo right here in that little corner and on these tips. And sometimes I use a mix of both repo and regular tape runner. And here we go. A lovely layout in our scrap journal. While the sketch calls for an embellishment roughly around here, I'm going to not put that down because I want it to have a little bit of white space for your eye to rest. I hope you got something out of this video. If so, please like it, leave a comment, and please subscribe to the channel for the next scrap journal sketch layout. Have a great scrappy day.